Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast News this Wednesday morning. This is your one-stop show for all that matters from the world of politics, business, sports and entertainment. Also a big look at COVID and how the world is tackling COVID, especially when it comes to European countries that are facing the heat. Lots to look forward to in the next 60 minutes. And this is your one-stop show, as I mentioned, where we'll get you all the latest from all the worlds that we spoke about. Let's get started. I'm Anil Thomas. With me this morning is my co-anchor, Nancy Kohli. Good morning, Nancy.
Good morning, Anil. How are you doing this morning?
Doing perfectly well.
All right. On that note, yes, like Anil mentioned, we'll get you all the news from across the nation, world, sports and business updates. And at the top of the hour, of course, an appeal to you once again to take care of yourself in this changing environment. And of course, as far as battling COVID-19 pandemic is concerned. With that, let's now begin and take a look at the top stories.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulates US President-elect Joe Biden over telephone. The leaders discussed their priorities, including COVID-19 pandemic, climate change and cooperation in Indo-Pacific. Prime Minister Modi also extends best wishes to Vice President-elect Kamala Harris.
Prime Minister Modi stresses on the reform of multilateral bodies, including the UNSC, addressing the 12th BRICS summit virtually. The Prime Minister calls for strict action against the countries supporting terror. Also highlights the role of the BRICS in the post-COVID-19 revival. Russian President Vladimir Putin underlines India's role as a vaccine production hub.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi lays out the red carpet for global investors at the Bloomberg Economic Forum, describing COVID-19 pandemic as an opportunity to create new protocols. Prime Minister highlights the challenge of balanced urban growth. Prime Minister shares growth story of 100 smart cities in India.
The Law Committee of the GST Council to meet today to discuss the issue of fake GST invoices, the collusions in the input tax credit, to also discuss measures for tightening of the GST registration process. The official sources hint at an intensified drive against the fake GST invoices.
While COVID situation in India continues improving, less than 50,000 cases recorded over the past 10 days. Recoveries continue to outweigh daily caseload over the last 1.5 months. Colleges in Karnataka open after 8 months.
Delhi University's new academic session to commence today as colleges reopen with the online virtual classes for students. The entire admission process conducted online in view of the COVID-19 pandemic.
And Trump administration announces partial withdrawal of US forces in Afghanistan, also announces a modest reduction in US troops in Iraq. Senate Majority Leader Republican Mitch McConnell opposes pullout, cautions against major changes in defense policy in the run-up to the White House transition. Well, those were the headlines at 8. Let's now get into the stories in detail, starting first up with what do we have in store, Nancy?
Well, we'll in fact begin with the Prime Minister Modi. They're speaking with the US President-elect Joe Biden and congratulating him on his win. He's in fact also extended his best wishes to Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. In fact, in a tweet, the Prime Minister has said, and I quote, "We reiterate our commitment, our firm commitment to the Indo-US strategic partnership and discussing our shared priorities and the concerns, and those are COVID-19 pandemic, climate change and the cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region." Prime Minister Modi warmly recalled his earlier interactions with Joe Biden, including during his official visits to the US in 2014 and in 2016. Biden had chaired the joint session of the US Congress that was addressed by the Prime Minister during his 2016 visit. And both the leaders agreed to work closely to further advance the Indo-US comprehensive global strategic partnership built on shared values and common interests. The leaders also discussed their priorities, including containing the COVID-19 pandemic, promoting access to affordable vaccines, tackling climate change and cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region. Prime Minister Modi also conveyed warm congratulations for Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. He said, I quote, her success is a matter of great pride and inspiration for members of the vibrant Indian-American community who are a tremendous source of strength for the Indo-US relations, unquote.
Well, Ambassador of India to United States, Taranjit Sandhu, said during the conversation that Prime Minister Modi and US President-elect Biden exchanged views on global strategic partnership and Indo-Pacific region and discussed COVID-19. They also discussed role of healthcare and pharmaceuticals, particularly vaccines.
Prime Minister Modi and President-elect Biden had a very warm conversation. Prime Minister congratulated President-elect, and President-elect extended warm Diwali greetings to Prime Minister and the people of India. India is one of the important partners in the world, and particularly of United States, in bulk production of vaccines, and India will be playing an important role in that. There is a strong US-India partnership in the energy sector, especially in the area of renewables, and further in the area of solar energy. It was a very warm conversation, and yes, certainly they both recalled their earlier interactions.
And let's now go across to our correspondent Amritpal Singh, who's joining us with more perspective on that phone call between Prime Minister Modi and the US President-elect Joe Biden. Prime Minister Modi, of course, congratulating Joe Biden on his win. Amrit, good morning. In this interaction that Prime Minister Modi has had with Joe Biden, clearly setting the priorities for the US partnership there.
Absolutely. As you know, India and US share a strategic, comprehensive strategic partnership. So the Prime Minister's call to the new President-elect of the United States was a step in that direction, where the Prime Minister of one of the biggest democracies of the world congratulates the incoming president of the oldest democracy in the world, putting India's weight behind President Biden now that Donald Trump has conceded defeat, no matter how grudgingly. So Prime Minister Modi, essentially, as the ambassador was saying, talked on issues which India and US would want to take forward in terms of their priorities in the immediate future. That is tackling the pandemic, looking at affordable vaccines, cooperation on that front, be it in the health sector, be it in the pharmaceutical sector, also looking at issues like climate change, because Joe Biden has made it very, very clear that US is again back in the climate change negotiations and would want to stay the course on that. We saw the Donald Trump administration pull out of that. So clearly India's interest lies there. So India would want to work with the US to strengthen the climate change infrastructure or the architecture around the world to achieve the goals of climate change, the ambitious goals of climate change that the world has set for itself. Apart from that, the two leaders also touched upon the increasing cooperation, especially in the Indo-Pacific region. So that's what the two leaders spoke about, Nancy.
Amrit, also give us a sense, you've covered Indo-US relations for long. What's the sense that you get when it comes to taking forward, ties with the United States, especially Joe Biden and, the Democratic team that comes into play over the Republicans? Now, how does it help, or, what are the challenges, before either of them when it comes to taking the ties forward?
Well, because of the transition, there will be a change of strategy in terms of, the priorities that the Donald Trump administration versus the Biden administration would put in. There would be a democratic agenda to it, but yes, as Biden has already said that he's back into the climate change negotiations, that augurs well for the world and also from India's strong standpoint, because India has been a staunch supporter of that. The ISA, or the creation of the International Solar Alliance, led by India and France is an example of that. So India would surely want to work with the United States to achieve the goals of that, strengthen Indo-Pacific, but then also, carry on from where our relationship was built even during the Trump administration. Now, Anil, Joe Biden is no stranger to India. As your report yourself, you was yourself saying in your reports that, India has worked closely with him during his term as Vice President. When Prime Minister had addressed the Congress, he was, as the Vice President, he was the head of the Senate sitting there. So he has worked closely in the Obama administration with India, and India would want to build on that relationship and take it forward.
Absolutely. All right, Amrit, thanks very much for joining us for the moment and putting all these developments into perspective for us. Thanks very much. Let's now move on to some other news. And Prime Minister Modi on Tuesday addressed the BRICS summit virtually. He urged the BRICS members to strengthen multilateralism and counter the threats posed by the menace of terror. The theme of the 12th BRICS summit was global stability, shared security and innovative growth. Here's a report.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Tuesday made a renewed pitch for reform of the United Nations Security Council and urged BRICS members to hold countries accountable for aiding and abetting terrorism.
ग्लोबल गवर्नेंस के संस्थानों की क्रेडिबिलिटी और इफेक्टिवनेस दोनों पर ही सवाल उठ रहे हैं। इसका प्रमुख कारण यह है कि इनमें समय के साथ उचित बदलाव नहीं आया। भारत का मानना है कि यूएन सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल में रिफॉर्म्स बहुत ही अनिवार्य है। हमें यह सुनिश्चित करना होगा कि आतंकवादियों को समर्थन और सहायता देने वाले देशों को भी दोषी ठहराया जाए और इस समस्या का संगठित तरीके से मुकाबला किया जाए।
The Prime Minister said BRICS could play an important role in tackling the COVID-19 pandemic.
कोविड के बाद की वैश्विक रिकवरी में ब्रिक्स इकोनॉमीज की अहम भूमिका होगी और हमारे देश ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी के मुख्य इंजन में से हैं। हमारे आपसी संस्थाएं और सिस्टम्स जैसे न्यू डेवलपमेंट बैंक, कंटिजेंट रिजर्व अरेंजमेंट और कस्टम्स कोऑपरेशन आदि भी वैश्विक रिकवरी में हमारे योगदान को इफेक्टिव बना सकते हैं। भारत में हमने आत्मनिर्भर भारत अभियान के तहत सेल्फ रिलायंट और रेजिलिएंट भारत पोस्ट कोविड अर्थव्यवस्था के लिए फोर्स मल्टीप्लायर हो सकता है।
PM said global institutions such as the World Trade Organization, International Monetary Fund and World Health Organization faced a credibility crisis because they haven't seen much change since their inception. PM said geostrategic changes taking place around us impact security, stability and growth. It makes BRICS' role that much more significant.
2021 में अपनी अध्यक्षता के दौरान हम ब्रिक्स के तीनों स्तंभों में इंट्रा ब्रिक्स सहयोग को मजबूत करने का प्रयत्न करेंगे। हम इंट्रा ब्रिक्स एकजुटता को बढ़ाने और इस उद्देश्य के लिए ठोस संस्थागत फ्रेमवर्क डेवलप करने का प्रयास करेंगे। मेरा सुझाव है कि हमारे एनएसए एक काउंटर टेररिज्म एक्शन प्लान पर चर्चा करें। हमारे बीच इकोनॉमिक इंटीग्रेशन का मुख्य जिम्मा निजी सेक्टर के ही हाथ होगा। मेरा सुझाव है कि ब्रिक्स बिजनेस काउंसिल हमारे आपसी व्यापार को $500 बिलियन के लक्ष्य तक ले जाने के लिए एक कॉन्क्रीट प्लान बनाए। हम भारत में महिला उद्यमिता को बढ़ावा देने के कई प्रयास कर रहे हैं। आशा है ब्रिक्स वुमेन्स बिजनेस अलायंस के जरिए इस क्षेत्र में इंट्रा ब्रिक्स कोऑपरेशन बढ़ेगा।
India is the new chair of BRICS. It is the third time India is the chair of BRICS. It held the BRICS presidency in 2012 and 2016. India will host the 13th BRICS summit in 2021. It was the second time Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping of China shared a platform since the standoff in Ladakh. President Vladimir Putin of Russia was the host of the summit. He spoke about scope of cooperation on a COVID-19 vaccine among the BRICS members.
In the COVID-19 case, we have had some groundwork. The Russian Direct Investment Fund has concluded agreements with the Indian and Brazilian partners to hold clinical trials of the Sputnik V vaccine. And is to start the mass production and scale that up. The New Development Bank has reserved 10 billion USD worth of provisions to combat the pandemic.
The 12th BRICS Summit was held in the backdrop of the 75th anniversary of the end of the Second World War and the establishment of the United Nations. This year's summit was held in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic too.
Well, Prime Minister Modi addressed another virtual summit on Tuesday. He spoke at the 3rd annual Bloomberg New Economic Forum. Find out more in this next report.
When Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the 3rd annual Bloomberg New Economy Forum on Tuesday, he listed out the reasons why investors world over should flock to India. He said India has democracy, an environment suitable for business, huge market, and a government which is making efforts to make India a global hub of investment.
If you are looking to invest in urbanization, India has exciting opportunities for you. If you are looking to invest in mobility, India has exciting opportunities for you. If you are looking to invest in innovation, India has exciting opportunities for you. If you are looking to invest sustainable solutions, India has exciting opportunities for you. These opportunities come along with a vibrant democracy, a business-friendly climate, a huge market, and a government which shall have not stone unturned to make India a preferred global investment destination.
The PM focused his address on the challenges of increasing urbanization in the world. He said both India and some African nations will see the biggest urbanization spurt in the coming 2 decades. He informed that India is moving in the direction of urban transformation and will build cities that come up to global standards with the help from everyone. He elaborated on how 100 smart cities are being built in the country.
These cities have prepared projects worth almost 2 lakh crore rupees or 30 billion US dollars and projects worth almost 1,40,000 crore rupees or $20 billion have been completed or nearing completion. To unleash the full potential of technology, integrated command and control centers have been set up in many cities. These centers are currently also serving as war rooms to manage the COVID situation in various cities.
The PM further said technology is key to the Smart City mission and Digital India is proving to be a big help in this endeavour. Metro services are being rolled out in 27 cities and work is on at high speed to build 1,000-kilometre long metro tracks by 2022. He added that the government is not only working to provide a roof above everyone's head, but it has also unveiled major policy changes in the real estate sector.
We will deliver more than 1 crore or 10 million houses to aspiring families in urban areas before the targeted deadline of 2022. Looking at the conditions created by the pandemic, we also introduced an affordable rental housing initiative. We created the Real Estate Regulation Act. This has transformed the dynamics of the real estate sector.
Prime Minister Modi also said that technology has been of a lot of help in times of the pandemic and that's why the government has taken steps to promote it further in the future. The PM also put across that the COVID pandemic has posed a big challenge to the world, but it has also presented an opportunity to reorient the world, drawing lessons from the experience. He said Indian citizens have had exemplary conduct during the pandemic. When people world over were opposing lockdowns, Indians followed the protocols properly. He said people will have a major role to play in the post-COVID world where cities will have to be readied from a new perspective.
And moving on now, the Law Committee of the GST Council is all set to meet today in New Delhi on the issue of fake GST invoices, the collusions in availing and the passing on of the input tax credit. They'll also work out the modalities on required measures such as further tightening of the GST registration process, besides recommending other legal recourse, including the necessary law amendment in the GST Act that would help in curbing the menace of fake invoicing. Now, according to the Finance Ministry sources, the DDGI and the CGST will intensify the drive against the fake GST invoice with much rigor. 30 GST invoice fraudsters have been arrested so far.
Well, classes for around 67,000 first-year undergraduate students at Delhi University will begin virtually today. The classes will begin after a delay of nearly 4 months brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic and the subsequent lockdown. From the delay in board exam results to soaring DU cutoffs followed by the lengthy admission process, the entire process was done online. Also, colleges are opting for online orientation process, introducing new students to the campus virtually.
Now, moving on, in the Kerala gold smuggling case, the court has rejected the bail application of M. Shivashankar in the case registered by the Enforcement Directorate. The court has given the order after considering the crucial state of the investigation and the possibilities of him tampering the evidences and influencing the witnesses. The former Principal Secretary to Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan, Shivashankar, had been in judicial remand since last Thursday and was arrested by the Enforcement Directorate on 29th of October.
The Supreme Court will continue hearing in the case related to the extension of the loan moratorium as well as waiver of interest on term loan EMIs during the 6-month moratorium period. In the last hearing, the petitioner had expressed gratitude towards the government and the RBI for giving relief to small loan bearers. The government had decided to waive off interest on loans up to 2 crores under the RBI's moratorium scheme, even when the case was pending in the apex court. Many people lost their jobs during COVID-imposed lockdown, and thus paying the installments of loans was difficult. Considering which, the RBI has given loan moratorium facility, postponing the installments. However, interest on moratorium was to be added up in the principal amount. Now, the case related to interest on this interest is pending before the apex court.
Moving on now to COVID-19 updates. India has been recording around 30,000 daily new cases for the last 2 consecutive days. 29,163 new cases were reported on Monday. The country has also seen less than 50,000 daily new cases being registered continuously for the past 10 days. While this signifies the wide adoption of COVID-19 appropriate behavior among the population, it also assumes significance in view of the high number of daily cases being continuously reported in many countries in Europe and the America. Now, meanwhile, Niti Aayog has cautioned that people should understand that the infection is not yet over and they must not hesitate to get themselves tested. And with respect to Delhi, it has maintained that as the testing capacity has now been doubled, people should ensure that if they have any symptom, they must approach the nearest testing facility. It also added that the low mortality rate does not mean that we can risk the lives of others.
यदि आप में कोई भी लक्षण है इस बीमारी का तो तुरंत आपको टेस्ट कराना चाहिए. That is also now part of the behavior change communication that we are emphasizing. Don't be hesitant to get yourself tested, because now testing has become easier. Testing is virtually on demand, and we are doubling the capacity of daily tests in Delhi. So therefore, we would request that as part of COVID appropriate behavior, people must ensure that if they are having any symptoms, they must access the nearest testing facility.
Well, people coming from Delhi to Noida will be randomly tested for COVID-19 from today, considering the increase of cases in adjacent areas. Gautam Budh Nagar DM said there will be random sampling from and amongst the incoming traffic without causing any inconvenience to the traffic or commuters. It added that this is being done in order to assess the spread of infection and would help in issuing advisories to employers and organizations where large number of people work and commute between GBN and adjacent areas so that the spread of infection is contained to a very large extent.
And taking a look now at the COVID-19 situation across the worst affected states in the country. Well, in the national capital, Delhi, 6,396 new cases of COVID-19 were reported as of yesterday. 4,421 patients have been cured and discharged, while 99 patients have died in the past 24 hours. Currently, there are 42,004 active cases in Delhi. In Kerala, 5,792 new cases of infections were reported yesterday. 6,620 patients were cured in the past 24 hours. And currently, there are 70,070 active cases in Kerala. In Maharashtra, 2,840 new cases were registered yesterday. 5,123 patients were discharged, while 68 patients died in the past 24 hours. Currently, there are 81,925 active cases in the state. Meanwhile, Tamil Nadu continues to make progress in the fight against COVID-19, with the daily positivity rate staying below the 2,000 mark for the 5th day in a row. Now, as per the daily official bulletin, a total of 1,652 people tested positive for the virus across the state yesterday. 2,314 patients were discharged, while 18 deaths were also reported in the past 24 hours.
Well, today is the second day of the phase 2 of the exercise Malabar 2020 being conducted in the Northern Arabian Sea till November 20th. Taking forward the synergy achieved in the recently concluded phase 1 of exercise Malabar 2020, which was conducted in the Bay of Bengal from November 3rd to 6th, this phase will involve coordinated operations of increasing complexity between the navies of Australia, India, Japan and the United States. Exercises include engaging in high-intensity naval operations over 4 days, including cross-deck flying operations and advanced air defense exercises.
And after all that news from across the nation, it's time for us to now move on to our next segment, and that is taking a look at the news from around the world in a segment across the globe. The US President Donald Trump is set to sharply reduce the number of US forces in Afghanistan and Iraq. The number of service personnel in Afghanistan will fall from 4,500 to about 2,500. The acting Defense Secretary Christopher Miller confirmed the drawdown, also outlining a modest withdrawal of the forces in Iraq that will reduce the troop levels from 3,000 to 2,500. Although moments after the announcement, the top Republican in the Senate, with the Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, opposed the move, warning against any major changes in the US defense or foreign policy in the next couple of months, including the major troop drawdown in Afghanistan and Iraq. Along with the McConnell, other senior Republicans have also voiced their concerns. The Texas Republican Mike Thornberry has called the move a mistake, saying cutting troops could undercut negotiations aiming to bring an end to the fighting in Afghanistan. Many US and Afghan officials have also warned of the rise in the levels of violence by Taliban insurgents and persistent Taliban links to Al-Qaeda after the move.
Well, India's permanent representative to the United Nations, T.S. Tirumurti, delivered a speech on anti-Semitism event of the World Jewish Congress. While addressing the event, T.S. Tirumurti said India condemns all sort of anti-Semitism. Without naming any country, he said that nations promoting and sponsoring hatred and terrorism on the basis of religion, even in this time of pandemic, need to introspect and protect their minority community.
Ladies and gentlemen, India condemns all forms of anti-Semitism and all forms of discrimination on religious grounds anywhere in the world. We now have countries taking advantage of the ongoing pandemic and spreading divisive hatred to other parts of the world on the basis of religion. COVID has not prevented them from supporting cross-border terrorism to kill innocent people and spread religious hatred. We call on those countries to stop spreading anti-Semitism, stop spreading hatred, and stop dividing the world on the basis of religion. We ask them to look inwards to promote harmony within their own societies, stop sectarian violence, and ensure the protection of minority.
While T.S. Tirumurthy said that India, a home to numerous religions, does not have any history of anti-Semitism.
To all major religions of the world. We ourselves gave birth to several religions, the most prominent of them being Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, and Jainism. I also come from a country which does not have any trace of anti-Semitism. India has had a thriving Jewish community for more than 2,000 years. The Jewish community is an integral part of the pluralistic fabric of India, and they enrich this fabric as much as any other community.
Now moving on, the High Commission of India launched a limited special edition of wristwatches for the Mujib centenary year in Dhaka on Tuesday. A limited series of special edition wristwatches was released in Dhaka on Tuesday for the Mujib centenary year, the Mujib Borsho. The limited series of special edition watches designed and commissioned by the High Commission of India was released by the Minister of Road Transport and Bridges, Obaidul Khwadar, and the High Commissioner of India to Bangladesh, Vikram Doraiswamy. The wristwatches in this limited edition series bear the images of the Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and his signature representing the timelessness of the message of Bangabandhu and its eternal relevance. Now, speaking on the occasion, the Road Transport Minister recalled the shared history of the Liberation War, which is the bedrock on which the India-Bangladesh bilateral relation is built. The High Commissioner Vikram Doraiswamy emphasized that while Bangabandhu is the father of the nation of Bangladesh, he is also a hero to the Indian people. Bangladesh is celebrating the birth centenary year of its founder, president and the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. The government of Bangladesh has declared the period from 17th March to 26th of March 2021 as the Mujib Borsho, marking the birth centenary of Bangabandhu.
By staying with Bangladesh, the Rapid Action Battalion of Bangladesh on Tuesday arrested the person in South Sumanganj who had vowed to kill Bangladeshi star cricketer Shakib Al Hassan during a live Facebook post. A case was earlier filed against the person under the Digital Security Act for issuing a death threat to Shakib for attending the Kali Puja event in Kolkata. Shakib Al Hassan was also in the news recently for breaking the mobile phone of one of his fans while crossing over to India through the land border. Responding to the events, Shakib Al Hassan offered an apology for his behavior with the fan and the incident relating to his visit to the Puja Mandap in Kolkata. Speaking about the incident at the India-Bangladesh border where he was accused of breaking the mobile phone of a fan, apologizing for his behavior, Shakib said that he was in a hurry to complete the immigration formality at the border and the incident was unintentional. Clarifying the incident in which he was seen in a Kali Puja Mandap in Kolkata, Shakib Al Hassan said he did not inaugurate the ceremony. However, he apologized if it hurt anybody's feelings and sentiment. He said that he is a proud Muslim and it was not his intention to belittle his own religion. He also called upon not to do anything which divides people and asked people to behave responsibly.
Now, the residents of Colombia's Providencia Island were left homeless on Tuesday as the island got hit hard by the powerful Category 5 Hurricane Iota, which caused severe damage to a majority of the public infrastructure. The Colombian president has said it's the first Category 5 that's the most serious of hurricanes to have ever hit the Andean nation. The Colombian government has confirmed 98% of infrastructural damage due to Iota. Most of the region's residents are unable to make contact with their relatives as the internet and telephone services are down for the past 24 hours. Fierce winds and floodwaters raged through Central America, hitting Honduras yesterday as Iota pummeled the region and forced thousands to evacuate their homes. Central America and southern Mexico are still reeling from Hurricane Eta, which caused havoc just 2 weeks back. The authorities are now working to get emergency supplies to residents who have been devastated by the hurricane.
While moving to quick updates on COVID-19 from across the world, let's take a look at the COVID map when it comes to this particular universe, 5 crore 59 lakh cases of COVID-19 all over the world. The total recovery standing at 3 crores 89 lakhs. The total deaths that have been reported stand at 13 lakh 42,000 lives lost globally, while the United States and Brazil continue to remain the hardest hit by the virus, with cases of infection crossing 1 crore 16 lakhs in the United States. So far, over 2,54,000 people have lost their life in the United States, which is followed by Brazil in terms of fatalities.
Moving on, Turkey has also imposed partial lockdown on the weekends across the country in a bid to fight the rising number of COVID-19 cases. The Turkish President Erdogan said that the lockdown will not disrupt the supply and the production chains. As per the new restrictions, all the schools will remain closed and continue online education until the year end, while the restaurants and cafes can only deliver food. The country has over 4,21,000 cases of COVID-19 with more than 11,700 fatalities.
In Sweden, COVID-19 cases continue to increase amid the toughest measures imposed to curb the spread of the disease. However, restaurants, schools and businesses are still open for the most part, albeit public gatherings in the country limited to 8 people, down from a previous upper limit of 300. Sweden is constantly registering a spike in COVID-19 cases since the last 4 days. Sweden's death per capita is several times higher than of its Nordic neighbors. It has so far more than 1,92,000 cases of the viral disease, with over 6,200 deaths.
Now, the Midwestern U.S. state of Wisconsin witnessed scores of people thronging to get tested at a COVID-19 testing facility. The drone video captured long queues of vehicles at a testing facility in Madison, which is among the hardest hit region from COVID-19. With more than 1 crore 16 lakh cases of infection, the U.S. is the hardest hit with COVID-19, with several of its states under burden of the rising caseload. The governors of the 7 Midwestern states, Minnesota, Michigan, Illinois, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, and Wisconsin had already urged its citizens to follow the medical expert guidance. The country has 2,54,000 fatalities so far.
Well, moving to Scotland, where 11 of the councils will move to level 4 restrictions from Friday, owing to the uptick in the COVID-19 positivity rate observed in those particular regions in the country. The councils include Glasgow, Renfrewshire, East Renfrewshire, East Dunbartonshire, West Dunbartonshire, North Lancashire, South Lancashire, East Ayrshire, South Ayrshire, Stirling and Western Lothian. Scotland's First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, said that the restrictions will be in place for a strict and limited period. Scotland has around 80,000 cases of COVID-19, with the death toll nearing 3,000 people.
New Orleans has announced a call of parades on the streets during the carnival session in 2021, pointing to the gathering of millions during the Mardi Gras celebrations in 2020. The authorities said that the celebrations may turn into spiraling of the COVID-19 cases. The carnival season begins on the Christian feast day of Epiphany in the year 2021. The festival will commence on 6th of January, unleashing celebrations that crescendo into a frenzy by the Mardi Gras of Fat Tuesday, which in 2021 falls on the 16th of February.
Well, after a look at all the national and international stories, it's now time to shift focus and get you the latest on what's trending on the web. And let's take a look at our next segment.
And we have our colleague Preeti now joining us, who will take us through what's making it to the web this morning. Preeti, good morning. What do you have for us? What's trending on the web?
Good morning, Nancy. Good morning, Anil. When we talk of the web portals on the social media, most of them are leading with the Prime Minister urging the investors to invest in India when he was speaking at a third annual Bloomberg New Economy Forum. He talked of how India is still vibrant enough to invite investments, and in spite of the COVID pandemic, the way it struck. And he also talked of India has exciting opportunities for the investors in terms of urbanization, and he also said enlisted the recent initiatives which have been put forth by the government, be it Digital India, be it affordable housing, be it the Startup India program, or for that matter, Real Estate Regulation Act, and also the metro rail in 27 cities. Also, the Prime Minister talked of how there are plans of extending, he talked of how 100 smart cities have been selected all across the country, and also how there are plans of taking the projects, projects worth 2 lakh crore rupees have been prepared for these cities, and they are on track. And he also talked of how opportunities there are, ample opportunities to invest in the country. He enlisted the factors also, like we have a vibrant democracy, also we have a huge market, and also the business-friendly environment is there. The Prime Minister also talked of the ambition wherein 1,000 kilometers of metro rail is to reach these 100 smart cities by 2022. And he also did mention how we need a quick restart after having bore the brunt of the pandemic, and the Prime Minister said that has to be done, the spirit has to be rekindled, and he urged the investors to come to India and invest in India. The next headline which I pick up is the Prime Minister congratulating US President-elect Joe Biden, and he talked of, on your screens you will also have the tweet which the Prime Minister said, and he said, Joe Biden and I talked on the issues of firming the issues which relate to firming the strategic partnership between the two countries, and he listed the issues: COVID-19 pandemic, climate change, and also cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region. Now, these are the specific issues on which both the leaders talked. Also, the Prime Minister said that Joe Biden's election as the president-elect in the US is a testament to strength and resilience of democratic tradition in the US. Also, Joe Biden has reciprocated, and he has thanked the Prime Minister. Also, Prime Minister Modi recalled of the previous meetings he has had with Joe Biden earlier, when Joe Biden visited India in 2014 as the Vice President, and also when the Prime Minister visited the United States in 2016, and Joe Biden had chaired the joint session of the US Congress, which the Prime Minister also addressed during his visit to the country. Also here, I would also, bring in the comments, the unwelcoming comments which were said by US President Donald Trump, wherein he said some unwelcoming comments about our country, and Joe Biden did pick that up during his campaigns, and he said that the relationship between India and the US will further be strengthened if he is elected to power. So this is the next, this is the story wherein the Prime Minister congratulated US President-elect Joe Biden. The third story which I picked talks of the increasing danger, the increasing repercussions of COVID-19 pandemic in the national capital. Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has sought the permission of the centre to impose lockdown in some select areas of the national capital, say markets which are in the containment zones or which have a higher threat of the spread of the infection. There is also talk of rolling back the permission which was given by the Delhi government for people to attend gatherings, more than 200 people or close to 200 people to attend the gatherings, and also this has been put forward by First Post. Also on your screens there is detail of how the cases have been rising in the national capital. At this point there is a continuous appeal not only by the government also but by our channels also for the people to follow, to wear masks and to follow social distancing. And through our channels, DD India and DD News, we're also running the campaign Mask Up India, wherein we're asking viewers to be part of the campaign and wear a mask. It's just a simple task: wear a mask, but wear it correctly and properly. This is the best means, the most cost-effective means by which you can protect yourself and people around you from COVID-19. So with that, I'll end this web review here. It's back to Nancy and Anil, both of you, for the rest of the news.
Well, thank you, Preeti, for those for those updates there from the web world. Appreciate you joining us this morning, getting up early morning and doing that press review for us. Well, time for us now to move to our next segment, that's sports, and let's take a look at all the newsmakers in sports. Well, Dominic Thiem became the first man to move into the last four of the ATP Finals event in London. The Austrian beat Rafael Nadal 7-6, 7-6 in a high-quality match for the second victory of the season-ending event at the O2 Arena in London. Nadal had 2 sets points in the first set tie-break but could not convert, with Thiem eventually securing the win on his 5th match point. Thiem's qualification was secured when Stefanos Tsitsipas beat Andrei Rublev earlier. Tsitsipas will play Nadal on Thursday, with the winner joining Thiem in the semis, while Rublev is eliminated after 2 defeats from 2 matches.
And Spain have beaten Germany 6-0 in Group A4 to qualify for the Nations League finals. And with this victory, Spain have made it to the 4-team league finals. The 20-year-old Ferran Torres scored his first career hat-trick. Torres scored goals for the team in the 33rd, 55th and the 71st minutes. The other goals came in from Morata, Rodri and Oyarzabal. In another match, world champions France has also made it to the Nations League finals. France beat Sweden 4-2. Olivier Giroud scored 2 goals for France. With this, his numbers of international goals has now increased to 44. Giroud has 7 goals less than Thierry Henry, the most goal scorer for France. Howard and Coman scored 1 goal each. Defending champions Portugal beat Croatia 3-2 in a thrilling match, and the first goal of the match was scored by Croatia in the 29th minute. However, in the beginning of the second half, Portugal scored the goal with the help of Ruben Dias. João Felix scored in the 60th minute to give Portugal an edge. However, Portugal Dias scored in the 90th minute to give the team 3-2 lead in the final moments of the match.
Well, staying with football, Qatar will host the coronavirus-delayed Club World Cup, an important test event ahead of the 2022 World Cup in February. This is what FIFA has announced on Tuesday. The virus has thrown the sporting calendar into chaos, with organizers forced to postpone flagship events like the Olympics and Euro 2020, while other events have been cancelled outright. The Club World Cup, which had been due to be played in Doha in December this year, will instead be held from February 1st to 11th in 2021 in Doha itself. The competition sees club champions from the 6 regional confederations and the champions of the host nation, Qatar's Al Duhail, brought together for the annual contest. Bayern Munich are the only team that has qualified to take place after winning last season's UEFA Champions League.
And with that, let's move on now to our next segment, the Health Tech segment, taking a look at the health story of the day. And moving on now to our health story of the day. Well, World COPD Day is being observed today. Let's tell you, COPD is an inflammatory lung disease that causes breathing difficulty as well as other complications. So what should we do to prevent the COPD and taking care? Let's take a look at this report.
Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, also known as COPD, is one of the most widespread illnesses across the world. Life with COPD can be difficult. It is a progressive condition that can make everyday's tasks challenging.
Today we are observing World COPD Day. It is a chronic disease. It causes obstruction of the airways, and because of that it leads to breathing difficulties. The reason why it's important to celebrate COPD is because it is a disease which is increasing in prevalence, and yet it is a preventable disease. The causes of COPD include smoking and exposure to biomass.
COPD progresses gradually and makes it hard to breathe. People with COPD are at increased risk of developing heart disease, lung cancer, and a variety of other health conditions.
If you have COPD, that means your lungs have become weak, and any exposure to irritants or infection will lead to an acute attack, which will lead to your lungs, the airways in the lungs getting further narrowed and therefore decrease in oxygenation, which can lead to breathlessness, which can lead to problems of the respiratory tract and the cardiovascular system or heart problems. Therefore, the first thing is, if you are smoking, stop smoking. If there is exposure to smoke, dust, high levels of air pollution, avoid that. Do some deep breathing exercises. We have shown that even yoga is a good type of exercise to do to increase the lung capacity, especially in COPD patients. And also take your medications regularly and be careful, especially during the winter months, because COPD does get aggravated during the winter months in most people.
With proper management, most people with COPD can achieve good symptom control and quality of life, reducing the risk of other associated conditions. Kiran Bhardwaj, DD News.
Well, after that health segment, it's time now to take a jog down memory lane. But two interesting things that crop out on today's day. One was Mickey Mouse in 1928 was launched on this very day. And in 1973, tiger became the official national animal of India. So lots to look forward to in history. Let's take a jog down memory lane and take a look at all the events that took place on this very day, November 18th.
It was on this day in 1727 that Jaipur was founded by Maharaja Savai Jai Singh II, the ruler of Amer, after whom the city is named. It was on this day in 1883 that the United States and Canada adopted a system of standard time zones. The railroad companies got together and established standard railroad time to increase safety and surmount complex scheduling on local times. This put an end to God's time. It was on this day in 1901 that V. Shantaram, renowned filmmaker and actor, was born in Kolhapur, Maharashtra. He was awarded the Dada Saheb Phalke Award for Lifetime Achievement in 1986 and the Padma Vibhushan in 1992. It was on this day in 1910 that freedom fighter Batukeshwar Dutt was born. Batukeshwar Dutt exploded a smoke bomb along with Bhagat Singh in the Central Legislative Assembly in Delhi on 8th April 1929 to get their voice heard to the deaf ears of Britishers. It was on this day in 1976 that Spain's parliament approved a bill to establish democracy after 37 years of dictatorship.
And let's now move on, take a look at the weather for today. A cyclonic circulation lies over Maldives area and neighborhood, and a trough in the east lies runs from this circulation. So under these conditions, fairly widespread to widespread rainfall accompanied with thunderstorm and lightning, and isolated rains over Kerala and Lakshadweep today and then reduced thereafter. Isolated to scattered light rainfall activity and thunderstorm and lightning very likely over coastal and the south interior Karnataka. Scattered to fairly widespread accompanied with thunderstorm and lightning also very likely over Kerala and Mahe and Lakshadweep tomorrow and day after. Now under the influence of a fresh western disturbance, the light isolated to scattered rain or snow is very likely over western Himalayas from today till day after tomorrow. The minimum temperature is very likely to fall gradually by 2 to 4 degrees Celsius over northwest India and the north Madhya Pradesh. And let's now also take a look at the temperature in your city.
Well, after a look at the weather, it's time now to take a look at the pollution, especially in Delhi and the National Capital Region. Let's take a look at this graphic that is coming before you. Well, most of the regions in and around Delhi, the NCR region, Faridabad, Noida, Gurugram, Greater Noida, all in the moderate stage when it comes to the pollution levels. This is the recording that's taking place at 7:30 a.m. this morning. Things looking good early morning, but one needs to be careful, especially when one ventures out in this kind of weather. One needs to take good care of one's health, especially since we are in COVID times. Well, moving on, it's time for us to say goodbye on Breakfast News. But before we do that, we've got a campaign running for you that's called Mask Up India, where we are requesting each and every one of you. Remember, we've shown you the temperatures there in the National Capital Region, and winter is setting in, so one needs to be careful not only about COVID but also about other comorbidities that could come into play, especially when it comes to breathing issues that young and old could be caught in this particular web. So one needs to be careful, and one needs to wear a mask as he or she steps out. And Nancy put it rightly this morning that it should be a part and parcel of one's attire in today's times, and you should pick it up. That should be the last thing that you should pick up along with the keys of the house.
Absolutely. Oh yes, absolutely. So yes, we are in fact urging you, before we close the show, we are urging you, it's a simple task. Do wear your mask. Do not forget to carry and to wear your mask and to wear it properly. With that, we're in fact saying goodbye. And before we go, we are in fact leaving you with some visuals. Today is the birth anniversary of the influential filmmaker V. Shantaram, who used cinema as an instrument of social change to advocate humanism and expose bigotry and injustice. On this day, let's take a look at this small compilation of some of his remarkable and memorable songs. Take a look at that. We wish you a great day ahead. Do take care of yourself, be safe and be healthy. Thanks for being with us.
चलो शुरू करो जी प्राण 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 था मुरली मनोहर कृष्ण कन्हैया जमुना के तट पे विराजे हैं जननन 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 प्राण 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 था मुरली मनोहर कृष्ण कन्हैया जमुना के तट पे विराजे हैं जननन 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 मोर मुकुट सर कानों में कुंडल कर में मुरलिया 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 आजे हैं
मालिक तेरे बंदे हम
आधा है चंद्रमा रात आधी आधा है चंद्रमा रात आधी रह न जाए तेरी मेरी बात आधी मुलाकात आधी आधा है चंद्रमा रात आधी रह न जाए तेरी मेरी बात आधी मुलाकात आधी आधा है चंद्रमा